Brought to you by JMR Rentals, jmrny.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, welcoming you back to part 2 of our award show preview. Once again, I got my favorite LA critic from across the land, Mr. Bill Hammon, joining me. Welcome back, Bill.
Good to be back.
It's good to see you, man. It feels like we just did this.
Yeah.
So you're out there in Hollywood land. We appreciate you taking the time out in between the raindrops, your avocado toast, and/or Pilates class. But we got some more movies to talk about. We're talking about these in relationship to what we're calling the No Rest for the Weekend Awards, which we will call it until we think of a better title. So if you have a title out there that you want to contribute, let us know. We're considering many, but for right now, it's the No Rest for the Weekend Awards. These are for actual movies that played in actual theaters that you've probably heard of and or seen, unlike some of the festival and indie stuff that we cover. But Bill, you've seen all of these movies. I've seen a couple of these movies. I've seen like 2 out of 3. And these are also in the running for like Oscars and have won Golden Globes and things like that. You're our man in Hollywood, so we count on you to cover that sort of action for us.
I endeavor to do my part.
All right, so what is our first item up for bid this week?
First up is Babylon, directed by Damien Chazelle, also written by him. This is without a doubt the most polarizing movie of the year. It currently holds, I believe, a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. Thereabouts. Some critics consider it the best movie of the year. Others, very much not so much. And as far as where I go, if I may quote the late, great Roger Ebert, I hated this movie. Hated this movie. We're still considering it for awards, and trust me, even my opinions aside, we're still giving it due consideration where it counts.
Well, before we get into the opinions, though, tell us what it's about. Give us a little plot synopsis.
So basically, it's Singing in the Rain by way of The Wolf of Wall Street. It's 3 core stories that interweave between Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, and relative newcomer Diego Calva. He's on Narcos Mexico on Netflix. That's the only other major thing he's done to this point. As 3 different people working in Hollywood as we transition from silent films to talkies. Diego Calva's character, Manny, he's a doe-eyed, hardworking, just trying to break in, get his foot in the door, and eventually, direct and produce films. Margot Robbie is a small-town girl coming out to chase the Hollywood dream of being an actress, and she's already convinced of her own superiority and star power, despite not having a single credit. Brad Pitt is your Valentino-esque character who's been in the game for a long time, a Hollywood leading man, but now he has to kind of adjust to the new norm of talking pictures where he can't just get by on his looks and, mugging for the camera. He actually has to be able to deliver lines and act. All of that is fueled pretty much 100% on booze and cocaine, resulting in a deluge of bodily fluids that all I can say is I regret watching this movie in a dine-in theater.
One thing I was kind of curious about, is there any sort of direct correlation between these people and actual, like, is Brad Pitt a Douglas Fairbanks?
They do reference other people, but yeah, Brad Pitt is most like Rudolph Valentino. Margot Robbie's character is like a shit-talking Louise Brooks. Diego Calva, Manny, I think, is just your everyman type character. I don't know if there's a direct corollary there.
From what I've heard, and it's almost a shame because I started seeing reviews for this. I haven't read one good one yet. Everything that I've heard about it, it's a big mess of a movie, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of good people in it, and Damien Chazelle is a good director.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I did not like La La Land. I won't say I hated it, but I kind of hated it because I thought it was long and kind of boring. I didn't think it was convincing to have the two most popular, biggest name movie stars as struggling artists. And I also could not remember a single tune 5 minutes after I turned the movie off, which to me is a bad sign if you've just made a musical.
And weirdly, I'm on the opposite end. I loved La La Land. I remember a lot of the music, particular. Weird. It's weird that City of Stars won the Oscar, but Emma Stone's soliloquy, "The Fools Who Dream," was the one that stuck out to me the most. Like mostly because like that just hit me at the right moment where I was struggling to get work, and trying to make ends meet out here. Is like so. It was kind of like a weird, like cathartic moment for me. So that stuck out to me. Um, and both movies like they're kind of two sides of the same coin in that they profess to be tributes to old Hollywood, but whereas La La Land is the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, hopeful version of this, Babylon is the drunken voicemail you leave on your ex's machine. it's it's weird to me because like it's a very well made film, and there are moments of pure brilliance. There's a really big sequence that takes place over one day of shooting, where literally Margot Robbie's character gets on set for the first day completely by accident. She gate crashes a producer's party the night before, and she's the last woman standing after everyone else gets passed out and overdosed. So she gets a job basically just completely by happenstance, and she makes the most of her moment shooting one of about a dozen films in this circle of cameras pointed at stages. It's a really well constructed bit. While on the other side of this hill out in Van Nuys, Brad Pitt is waiting to shoot his one shot in this massive medieval battle scene, and he's progressively just getting drunker and drunker and trying to wheel and deal while Manny's being sent all over creation to try to appease this director played by actual director Spike Jonze, who's just gone completely insane. He's getting lectured on camera types that have no difference from one another, just in their model number, but they act like it's a thing. And because they're using vagrants and hobos for their extras in this battle scene, they're literally killing and maiming each other with real weaponry because they just don't. There's no such thing as a production budget for special effects to make it. So like that whole thing, like this is about. I want to say this is about minute 50 to minute 70. Pure gold. The 45 minutes that precede it, which is just this huge bacchanal orgy of excess that opens the film, complete with an elephant taking a massive dookie on a guy, which again, they were serving as food. Come on. Like that's all just window dressing and spectacle for the sake of spectacle. Like it's all style, no substance. And that's kind of the problem with this movie overall, is that it's 3 hours plus long. I think it's like 3 hours 10. And you don't have 3 hours of story in this. You barely have 1 hour of story in this. Everything else is just repeating the same beats of drinking, drugs, debauchery, reset, and do that about 4 or 5 times, only to then try to buy it back in the last 5 minutes by retroactively trying to take credit for not just Singing in the Rain, but the entire film industry, which, I mean, I remember I saw a tweet that someone basically, I can't remember who I would give them proper credit, but basically it's like the last 5 minutes of Babylon after 3 hours of bleep, 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 and bleep. And it's that shot of Michelle Williams from The Fabelmans going, "Movies are dreams." It's just so tonally all over the place. And it comes out of nowhere. So it's like, I get what Damien Chazelle was trying to do here. I truly get it. And I think his intentions were noble. Like all of this complete in bonkers, for lack of a better word, garbage is intentional. This is what he means to do. It's just you can't do that and then try to appeal to our sense of sentimentality afterwards. So it's like I know exactly what it was trying to do, and I appreciate the ambition. Um, even trying to address the musical interest, like is like there are a lot of people who found La La Land's music to not be memorable. So the now Oscar nominated score is highlighted by a track where it's just the same four notes on a trumpet over and over again. Like it's like, yeah, that sticks in your head because it's an easy earworm. It doesn't mean it's good, but again, it's like he's trying to answer La La Land's criticisms by throwing a tantrum, but a well orchestrated one that has a point, just not one that resonates.
To your opinion, like there's a point in there somewhere. There's probably a good shorter film somewhere in this morass of movie, but it's sort of swallowed by the rest of the chaos and all that stuff.
I mean, one of the weird overarching themes of 2022 cinema in general is that there were a lot of movies that came out both domestically and foreign around award season that profess to, tell us about the magic of movies. Babylon's one of them, The Fablemans, Last Film Show from India, Bardo from Mexico, Empire of Light. There's a bunch of them. And I think The Fablemans gets the closest to the point here because a lot of these pontificate and soapbox about the magic of movies without actually showing us movie magic. That sequence I told you about with the one shooting day that's complete, controlled chaos on the hill, that's the closest Chazelle comes to showing us movie magic. And then the rest of the movie is telling us how magical movies are. It's like, you gotta show us, don't just tell us. Because, when just like you said with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling being, the A-listers pretending to be struggling actors, I don't buy Margot Robbie trying to break into Hollywood for a second. I don't buy Brad Pitt for even one moment as someone who couldn't figure out how to act. He's Brad friggin' Pitt. it's like at least with La La Land, you could have Emma Stone substituting for any, doe-eyed ingenue. You could have Ryan Gosling trying to make it as a musician in a dying genre of jazz. There's at least ways you can get around the obvious pitfall there. Here, I just don't see it.
Is it a recommendation though? Is this train wreck worth witnessing?
Not for any real amount of money. Like if it's on streaming, go for it. Like make a bad movie night out of it, but don't go out of your way to pay $20 a season in the theater. I mean, again, it's 3 hours long. You need it, one of the beautiful things this year is like there's so many long movies. The Indian film RRR was the only one that was gracious enough to give us an intermission for the sake of our bladders.
All right, so we're going to move on to another film that some critics have said was a bit messy, especially the first act of it. I really liked it. I know that not everybody did, but Amsterdam, starring Margot Robbie, Christian Bale, and John David Washington. Amsterdam is the story of three friends who witness a murder and are framed for it. They discover this plot against America. It's rooted in American history somewhat. It's amazing that there's hardly any Americans in it. You got some, which is good, but you also have your fair amount of Brits and Canadians and Aussies in there. One thing I thought was a standout, I definitely thought Christian Bale was a standout. And, I can look at Margot Robbie for 2 hours anytime. She was wonderful in the movie. And she looks, it's great that she's doing these period pieces because she looks fantastic in these period costumes. And John David Washington is also very good. And you do get some nice, like De Niro plays a supporting role. You've also got Michael Shannon and Mike Myers in it. I would say the first part of it, you're watching this happen, and it's a bit like, okay, where are they going with this? It's like you're just watching this movie sort of snowball on screen. Okay, so this is David O. Russell who made this. I recently watched American Hustle, which felt like David O. Russell making a Scorsese movie. This felt like Russell making a Coen Brothers movie, like wanting to make a Coen Brothers movie kind of thing. And The character is very quirky, especially Christian Bale's character, who is very reminded me a lot of Peter Falk, especially with like Peter Falk as Columbo, and he's he's quirky. He's also I thought everybody was quirky and funny. There's a lot of good stuff in it, but it doesn't really start to be a movie until the second act when the plot kicks in, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's why all these people have come together. Uh, Taylor Swift, your favorite singer, is in it. And spoilers, but she's murdered in the first like 10 minutes of the film. And there's an extensive flashback to World War One. Again, this is set against the backdrop of World War One, like Pinocchio, but very different. And but it's really, I really liked it. It was something I watched again, and I just really enjoyed the performances. And what did you think of it?
I didn't like it as much as you did. It does have its moments, certainly. And it's because the cast is just so game for everything they have to do. And it's a very big ensemble cast. John David Washington, the apple did not fall far from Denzel's tree on that one. He's a very, very good actor. Anyone who calls him a nepo baby can F right off. The guy knows what he's doing.
We talked about him in Tenet, and we were polarized on Tenet, but we
Tenet, Black Klansman, like the guy is phenomenal. Christian Bale, yeah, he has so much fun just chewing scenery in this movie. Uh, Margot Robbie, she's functional. I don't think she gives a bad performance. I just think it's just nothing special, knowing what she's capable of. But I think my biggest critique of the film, my biggest criticisms, twofold. One is that a lot of the cast doesn't get that much to do. You have like Rami Malek and Anya Taylor-Joy basically as side characters waiting in the wing. De Niro is the only true analog to actual history. Taylor Swift, I mean, yeah, like I said, she's killed 10 minutes in, and for the brief time that she's there, she's really not allowed to make an impression. I imagine that when they filmed her death scene, David O. Russell just called from the set like, "Hey Taylor, write a song called Maybe It's Me," and she just collapsed on the stage. And then he said, "Perfect, we'll add a scream and ADR." Chris Rock completely wasted. Zoe Saldana gets to be just a token love interest. I love these actors. I want them to do so much more. Even though I make fun of Taylor Swift, she actually is a half decent actress. I was like, I want her to be able to stretch her range. When you show me this massive ensemble cast and only three of them get to do anything, that kind of didn't sit right with me. And the other thing was the script is weirdly repetitive. The three main characters say the word Amsterdam about 4,000 times, and there are some weird bits of dialogue where they're redundant within themselves. I think there's one scene where Margot Robbie says something to the effect of, "The dream repeats itself, so history repeats itself, so the dream repeats itself." I'm just sitting in the theater going, what was that? And the thing is, I compared this to something like The Banshees of Inisherin that we talked about on the last episode. Both of these films have most likely intentionally banal dialogue. But with Banshees of Inisherin, it serves the primary thesis and theme of the film because it's illustrating just how much of a rut this whole community is in and why Brendan Gleeson wants to break off his friendship from Colin Farrell because he's such a dullard. He's a well-meaning dullard, but a dullard nonetheless. Here, it just feels like you're padding the runtime. And when you're David O. Russell, you thrive on high-octane character energy. That's why something like American Hustle works so well. It's why Silver Linings Playbook works so well. It's like, let the actors feed into each other's energy and let the camera roll, basically. There are moments in Amsterdam where that happens, particularly in the climax at the Veterans Dinner and in the earlier flashbacks to when the three all met during the war. Like those moments are there, and they're very funny. John David Washington is not really known as a comic actor. I mean, Margot Robbie's played, Harley Quinn, so she has comic sensibilities, and of course Christian Bale can play any character you put in front of him, whether it's dramatic or serious. So the fact that they're able to play off each other with such good comic timing is one of the highlights of the film. I just wanted more of that.
For me, it's a character movie. I also, when I first saw it, it was one of those films that I liked better on second viewing, because when you first see it, it is a bit off-putting. There's a lot of wide-angle shots in it that are kind of unsettling and very sort of surreal looking. Everything kind of looks like the flashback scenes in particular look a bit dreamy because he's getting close to people with a wide-angle lens. But I did have a lot of fun with it, and it was one of the, unlike Banshees of Inisherin, it's one of those films that I want to see again. Anyway, we got to move on because I don't want to run out of time before we get to talk about this last movie, Glass Onion, the sequel to Knives Out, starring the wonderful Daniel Craig. We've also got a great ensemble in this one: Kate Hudson, Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe, Catherine Hahn, Jessica Henwick, Leslie Odom, David Bautista. It's another adventure for Benoit Blanc, who's a character that I have great affection for. I really liked him in Knives Out, and I think Craig is pitch perfect with this Kentucky drawl he's got going on that's become like iconic. This one, it takes place on a Greek island. We've got Edward Norton as an Elon Musk billionaire type character. So he invites all his friends to his private island, and he's going to do this murder mystery thing. That's the premise. I liked it, and it's one of those ones I did watch a number of times. It's on Netflix. I think unfortunately, the story was kind of like a movie killing its own box office, because I think it would have done really well had it had like a real theatrical run. Netflix pulled it in like, what was it, a few weeks, and then just went straight to streaming. Did you happen to see this one in the theater? Or did you watch it on streaming?
I did see it in the theater. This is kind of how Netflix does its release model when it's trying to vie for awards. It'll do the 1 week requirement for the Academy, and then it'll go straight to the platform about 2 or 3 weeks later. Rian Johnson fought hard, though, to basically be able to take this as like a roadshow thing. So it did get a little bit of a theater tour before it came on Netflix, and he's going to do another one, I believe, in I want to say March or April. Like he really does love the idea of this being seen on the big screen. I think he's contracted to Netflix for 3 Knives Out sequels, but yeah, like he's very much one that wants to be on the big screen as much as possible. And we still don't kind of really know how Netflix's algorithm works, or how they measure viewership as a model of success or failure. So there's all those nebulous things that we're never going to truly understand unless there's like a court order that forces them to reveal it. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this, just like I did with Knives Out. I mean, you want to talk about an ensemble cast that gets to play off each other and feed off each other's comic timing and energy. Here you go. Good. I mean, there's not a false note to be had here. I love Benoit Blanc as a character. It's like Daniel Craig just decided, I'm going to be the exact opposite of James Bond, and I love every second of it.
I think he's great. I think everybody in it's great. Here's my one issue with the movie. I'm always looking for films that are timeless. I like it when a movie has a timeless quality. This movie is very much routed in the early 2020s. It deals with the pandemic. We've got Google alerts. We've got all of these various modern, people talk about apps, streaming on YouTube. It's very much of its time, and I'm wondering, is anyone going to appreciate this movie in 10 years? Are they going to appreciate it in 20 years? Or will it seem like a relic? Because I don't think Knives Out is. I think this is the one kind of, it's very similar to Knives Out in the way that you've got similar types of unlikable characters and things like that. And of course you got the Benoit Blanc character as our Hercule Poirot type. But I wonder if are people going to look back at this years from now and go, yeah, but it's so dated. And I also wasn't crazy about the ending. I won't spoil the ending just in case somebody out there hasn't seen it. I'm assuming most people have by now. I kind of guessed the mystery a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, because I saw some things that are pointed out later before they were pointed out. And I also think there's some elements that I just kind of fundamentally disagree with about the ending. But all in all, really, the thing I like, it's so much fun. Like Knives Out was fun. This movie is fun.
And that's where I can forgive it a little bit, because yeah, the ending's not perfect, but at its core, Rian Johnson understands what makes a murder mystery fun. You have to be allowed to play along. Even if you solve it by the second act, there's still that engagement where you're playing along, you're trying to parse everything in your head, and even when the conclusion isn't all that satisfactory, there's still the fun of the journey because you got to participate. And, whether the ending is perfect, subpar, or even one that actively pisses you off, you still have that. So yeah, it's not the. I would say it's about an 8 out of 10 on the ending. Maybe a 7.5 if I'm really in a bad mood. But again, there are so many murder mysteries that don't even let you have that. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the murder mystery genre. I liked the new Poirot stuff by Kenneth Branagh. I thought both. I like both. I think Murder on the Orient Express is better just story wise than Death on the Nile, but I also like Death on the Nile. I've heard he's going to get to do another one of those, so I'll be on the look for it. We did a show talking about both of those films, but I'm really glad this genre is back because it's a way to get it's a way to get talent on the screen because you can get a great ensemble cast, and now that it's a success, of course the next cast is going to be great too, and I'm sure they can't be all that easy to write. Murder mysteries never are, but I'm really glad what they're doing. I definitely highly recommend it. Actually, both Amsterdam and Glass Onion are going to be recommendations from me with, a watch it on streaming recommendation from you for Babylon. Well, I got to wrap it up, but for those who want to read these reviews that you've got on your website, learn more about you, watch your material, where can they find you online?
You can read me at actuallypaid.com. You can find my tweets for as long as that platform still exists until Ed Norton takes it down at actually_paid. And on YouTube, I actually paid to see this. We have our monthly worst trailer in the World Series, and the Oscar Blitz is in full swing. I am cranking the stuff out right now.
All right, my friend, we'll see you soon. We'll see you for the awards episode. And thank you all out there for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, visit our website, norestoftheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And now you can subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to thank my good friend Bill Hammon once again, as well as our sponsor, JMR Rentals. For Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.